Welcome, I'm John Reisman, and this is Centrist News and Perspectives, where we use evidence, reason, and logic to gain greater understanding about what we hear in the news. There's been a lot of talk lately about the Electoral College, and that they can still change the outcome of the popular vote from November 8th. That is in fact true because only 2 states actually have bound electors. The rest are pledged or independent, and therefore can change their vote. Keep in mind, though, that electors are generally chosen by their party for their dedication to that party, not their commitment to a free and carefully deliberated vote. The only way we could see a different outcome is if the electors ignore all the fake news out there and figure out what the facts really are. On that basis, one might assume it is unlikely, but not impossible, to see a different outcome. The Electoral College will cast their votes deciding who will be the next president on December 19th. Once that vote is cast, the president is officially selected. Since many voters don't have a good understanding of the Electoral College, which included myself, I decided to dig in and learn more. By the end of this newscast, I hope you also will have a better understanding. In America, it is in fact the electors, which represent the many districts in each state, that vote for our president and vice president. The popular vote creates a baseline vote at the local level, and then the Electoral College deliberates the issues and the evidence to see if anyone was lying to the people, then they vote. The difference between the intentions of our constitutional framers for the Electoral College and now is that the framers wanted the electors to be independent thinkers. As usual, party politics got in the way of making sense, and the states ignored the constitutional intent. Effectively, the states created dictatorships for the Electoral College in an effort to make the vote mindless and thoughtless by adopting a winner-take-all approach, designed to remove the potential for an independent free vote. James Madison, our 4th president, and Alexander Hamilton, our 1st Secretary of the Treasury, both key architects of the U.S. Constitution, objected strongly to this approach, arguing it was contrary to the intention of the framers. Hamilton considered a pre-pledged elector a violation of the spirit of Article 2, because pledged electors make no analysis and have no need to actually think about what is best for America. Madison agreed, saying when the Constitution was written, every single one of its authors assumed individual electors would vote independently, and it was inconceivable that the electors would be told how to vote by the states. Madison and Hamilton were so upset by this distortion of the Constitution that Madison wrote a letter to George Hay, and Hamilton went even further and drafted a constitutional amendment preventing the states from acting as a dictator toward the electors. Unfortunately, the amendment was not adopted. It is easy to see that the dictatorship style of the states is part of the corruption of our Constitution and therefore our political system. Apparently, 29 of the states pledged their electors to winner-take-all, but only 2 states, Michigan and Minnesota, legally bind their electors. It is possible that if enough electors voted faithless to the pledge, that might just open the door for Alexander Hamilton's amendment to be put back on the table, in order to restore the intentions of the framers for an independent vote. In the recent discussion, CNN's Brianna Keilar reports on former Vice President Al Gore's flip-flop on his position regarding the Electoral College.
I want to talk to you about something that former presidential candidate Al Gore, who, as you know, won the popular vote in 2000, but obviously lost the Electoral College. He's defended the Electoral College as an institution, but now he's not doing that. This is what he says. He says, I've changed my mind on that. I do think that it should be eliminated. He goes on to say that eliminating the Electoral College, quote, would stimulate public participation in the democratic process like nothing else we could possibly do. Our democracy's been hacked now. It's pathetic how our system is not working today. You would make the opposite argument, that actually the system is working.
Yeah, it absolutely is working, and it's a shame to hear him say something like that.
However, Brianna, in my view, made a mistake in her report because she did not address the true nature of the intention of the framers versus the manner in which the states have distorted the Electoral College system. And since only 2 states bind their electors by law, pledged electors can change their vote. That means 48 states can change elector votes, which, though unlikely, could change the outcome of the election. Michael Banerian makes a similar contextual mistake in his interpretation of the Electoral College. Banerian says the system works, but he is not addressing the truth of the problem, that the electors, according to the framers of the Constitution, were not supposed to be bound or pledged by the states. Al Gore is also wrong, because he is attacking the Electoral College also without addressing the founders' intentions. The Electoral College is a unique system, and if we implemented it in a way our framers intended, it would be a truly great system. As it stands now, with many states acting as dictators to the electors, the Electoral College is not able to easily achieve its original intention of being an independent, free system by which the people and the needs of the people can be addressed. From a centrist news perspective, it would be much better to readdress the amendment by Alexander Hamilton and make the electors independent and not pledged or bound to state dictates. To empower an independent electoral system would restore the intentions of every single one of the framers of our Constitution. This is a problem that we, the people, should concern ourselves with, to restore the integrity of our Constitution by restoring the intentions of the framers of that Constitution. So, to get this story right, we need to parse the issues with a fine edge. The issue is not that the Electoral College, as designed by the framers, is a bad idea, but rather the way some states distorted the Electoral College and turned it into a mindless, thoughtless, brainless system, which handicaps the liberty and freedom the electors were supposed to have as representatives of the people and protectors of the national interest. If the framers of our Constitution were alive today, based on what we know of their intentions, and since Madison and Hamilton said all of the framers were against the binding and pledging of the electoral vote, they would likely be appalled by the binding positions of Michigan and Minnesota, and the position of Michael Banerian, who has literally pledged to be bound to a mindless, thoughtless vote. From a centrist perspective, this is so completely opposed to reason and logic, as well as the constitutional intention of the framers, that it is amazing the problem has never been corrected. It is left to the people of the United States to call upon our leadership to readdress the Hamilton Amendment and unbind the Electoral College in order to restore freedom and independence from the mistakes of dictators, be they state dictates or oligarchs disguised as politicians pretending to be for the people while running their own elitist agenda. If by chance the electors do see this report, keep in mind the intentions of the framers of the Constitution, those individuals that designed the Electoral College to be a body of independent thinkers, not mindless partisans. The electors have two main choices: Donald Trump, who with 196 federal indictments and 38 guilty verdicts is a career criminal that has made his living ripping off American workers by systematically cheating them with bad deals and broken promises, and who lied to his own supporters about nearly everything he said in his campaign. Trump even told the crowd after the election on December 3rd that he was shocked that people didn't read his job-saving promise as a euphemism. And he also said he didn't mean it the way it was understood by his supporters. But Donald also lied during his career to criminals that were helping him. For example, according to the Wall Street Journal, Ken Shapiro, who worked with the Scarfo crime family, who secretly gave money to the mayor of Atlantic City, who ended up in jail, by the way, on behalf of Donald Trump for political favors, was not paid back for the cash he gave the mayor. According to Barry Shapiro, Donald just reneged. That's his automatic thing. Donald provided his classic response saying, "The last thing I'm doing now is handing cash." Among other connections to the mob, John Cody, convicted of racketeering, and the Gambino family while getting Trump Tower built to make sure his concrete was delivered, even though he reportedly had to pay a significant premium for that delivery. Trump also plans during his presidency to increase the national debt, which in the long run will be a heavy burden for the typical low-income American worker. And it is the American workers that will have to shoulder the burden because he is giving tax breaks to the rich. Even before taking office, he has already begun to weaken America's security posture and riled China simply due to his arrogance and inexperience. Russia is happy with Trump because they feel less pressure. which may likely embolden them to encroach further into Ukraine and Europe. Donald's economic plan is to give away taxpayer money on temporary infrastructure jobs, which also will decrease the future economic security of America. And with Trump, he did not even have the courtesy to wait until he got into office before he started reneging on his promises to his supporters. He started flip-flopping as soon as he could get in front of a microphone.
Would you accept defense?
For certain areas, I would.
What about the pledge to deport millions and millions of undocumented immigrants?
After the border is secured and after everything gets normalized, we're going to make a determination on the people that you're talking about, who are terrific people.
Hillary called you. Tell us about that phone call.
She's very strong and very smart.
You know, you said that you might call President Obama for advice. Would you think of calling President Clinton for advice?
Well, he's a very talented guy, both of them. I mean, this is a very talented family. Certainly, I would certainly think about that. Lobbyists and special interests.
And you want to get rid of all of that?
I don't like it, no.
You don't like it. But your own transition team is filled with lobbyists.
It's the only people you have down there.
You have lobbyists from Verizon. You have lobbyists from the oil gas industry.
Sure.
You have food lobbyists.
Everybody's a lobbyist down there. That's
No,
what they are.
wait.
They're lobbyists, they're special
On your own
interests.
transition
We're trying
team.
to clean up Washington. Look,
How can you clean
everything.
it?
It's no wonder so many are confused and upset about their vote for Trump. Ultimately, what Trump is offering the American people is political theater, combined with naivete, ignorance, and his own insatiable greed for power, money, and, of course, admiration. The other choice, of course, is Hillary Clinton. Like it or not, the more conservative of the two candidates, whose economic plan was almost revenue neutral and was designed to empower the American worker with job training for future jobs instead of temporary Trump jobs. Her plan would not increase the risk in China or the Malaysian shipping routes, where Trump is already doing damage and pushing China into a more hostile position. Simply put, Trump lied about just about everything, from Hillary's emails to his promises for a wall, to reducing the national debt. And for that, I can safely call him an extreme liberal. And instead of draining the swamp of corruption, he is loading his cabinet with millionaire and billionaire elitists and lobbyists. He didn't drain the swamp. He literally just moved it into the White House cabinet room. On the other hand, Hillary's more conservative plan empowers the American worker and maintains a more stable economy by empowering education and helping regular people get better jobs for the future. All in all, the Electoral College system was designed as a safety mechanism to allow for and empower faithless electors that were not pledged or bound or restricted by the states. The framers of the Constitution did us a favor by allowing faithless electors to prevent what is known as the tyranny of the majority, and also to prevent the abuse of democracy by lying politicians, and to prevent authoritarian dictators like Donald Trump from creating an oppressive government, which seems to be his intention based on his statements and actions in forming his cabinet. Trump has also indicated to some extent he might trash the First Amendment and start putting reporters in jail that attack him. Freedom and liberty are not as interesting to Trump as making money and wielding his corruption and power over the people. So if you are viewing this news piece, spread this message and let's hope our electors see it. While it is unlikely they will change their minds, it is not impossible for them to deliberate on these matters before they cast their vote. If you are an elector, as King Solomon would have likely said, the choice, and in our case, our national security and the future of our economy, is in your hands. Don't base your decision on fake news and short-term thinking. Base it on evidence, reason, and logic, as well as careful consideration of our future. I'm John Reisman, and this is Centrist News and Perspectives.